what's up, y'all? It's your boy Jeremy from Randolph Running Club, and we're back again today with another video, as you saw in that intro, to talk about the Allbirds Tree Dasher 2s. So if you're watching this video, I think you probably already have a kind of an idea of what the Allbirds are all about. I think it's a San Francisco-based company. I know it's Bay Area, if I'm not mistaken. And they're all about sustainability, being environmentally friendly, things of that nature. So today, I really want to answer the question, is that worth any potential trade-offs? Is the shoe still a good running shoe, since they've decided that they want to dabble in the running shoe space, which has been dominated by traditionally running brands like Nike, Adidas, Asics, those kind of things, Saucony, right? So let's talk about that a little bit here, right? I just want to get straight into this one. If you're watching this, it's probably the day after Christmas, so I do want to just start off and say, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. But without further ado, let's start off with the specs. So this shoe has a 7mm heel drop, which means from the rear of the shoe, right? So the heel to the forefoot, there is 7mm of difference. The forefoot is 15.5mm, so pretty low, and the heel is 22.5. These shoes come in at 10.23 ounces in a US men's size 9. And just kind of like the various specs and features of the shoe, it has a Tencel lyocell, which is basically a eucalyptus tree fiber upper, right? So it's a mesh upper, but it is made out of eucalyptus trees. So if you follow the theme here, very environmentally friendly. The midsole is based out of sugarcane. It's a sugarcane based EVA rubber. So they call it sweet foam. It has a natural rubber outsole, which I believe means that, it wasn't made with any type of chemicals or additives or anything like that. The shoelaces are made out of recycled plastic bottles. And the insole is actually made out of castor bean oil. And then the heel liner there is merino wool. So all good, all very eco-friendly things. So I definitely give high marks for that, right? I think as just a society, it would be better for us to be more environmentally sustainable and conscious in the things that we do day to day. And I think that's something that Allbirds can really be proud of there, is that they really stuck to that mission and tried to do everything that they could to make the shoe have the least carbon footprint as possible. Pun not intended, carbon footprint. Anyway, so immediate step-in feel on these shoes, I feel like it's interesting. Maybe it's because I've been running in different types of shoes than this, but my first thought was, wow, this shoe feels extremely stiff. It feels kind of unforgiving. My initial impression was kind of that it was almost like a walking shoe to a certain extent, where you don't necessarily want the shoe to be too squishy and unstable while you're walking around, but you want something that has a decent amount of support for you to be on your feet for a long time. And it had just a little bit of softness, but honestly, it felt pretty hard. I was hoping that, stepping into the shoe like that it would be a very responsive shoe, something that gives a lot of pop on the toe off. And maybe that would kind of make up for it. Now, I understood where I was getting in. The stack height isn't extremely high, right? Like the Nike Invincibles that I reviewed pretty recently has stack height that's in the 30s. So that's a much bigger slab of foam, and it's a different consistency of foam, right? But with that being said, stiff shoe, I'll save my judgment for once we're actually on the run, right? I think the upper of this shoe is a pretty nice place to be. It held the foot in place very well. It's, all gusseted tongue, one-piece mesh upper. I love the way that the wool feels on the ankle or Achilles area. It's just really nice and just gives a really great lockdown feel. And it just doesn't feel like there's any heel slip or anything like that. I went with the size 13.5. I usually go with a size 14 because most brands don't do a 13.5. And I find that my foot is actually somewhere in between a 13 and a 14. So plus to Allbirds there. But I do want to say, just step-in feel wise, really beware. If you have a wide foot, this shoe is not going to work for you. Not at all. I've been running a ton recently in Ultras and Nikes primarily. But with that being said, I found a lot of people say Nikes have a pretty narrow feel, and I've never had a problem with those at all. But I find that this shoe if I'm wearing this and like I'm not really moving around, like let's say I'm on a plane for a couple hours or something like that, this shoe will actually make the sides of my feet kind of hurt a little bit. And I never ran in them past, I want to say like 7 miles or so. So I don't know how that would have played in for a longer run, but I can just tell you right now, I have a very regular width foot. I don't think it's wide, I don't think it's narrow. And these shoes really kind of caused me a little bit of pain there. And maybe going up to a 14 would have done it, but lengthwise I was fine. It just seemed like the actual last of the shoe, the actual base of the shoe, was just a little bit too narrow for me personally. And that was really apparent coming from a pair of Ultras. So just keep that in mind. So now I want to move on to number 2, which would be the on the run feel of these shoes. I want to say, I had a lot of hope here. I mean, they called the midsole sweet foam. And for me, I was thinking it was going to make my feet feel sweet, make my feet feel really good. But to be honest with you, this shoe runs just as hard as it felt on step in. Every single step that I took, I've run about 40 miles total in these shoes, and I don't think I'm going to be running a lot further than that in them, just being quite honest with you. It was always hard. Never felt like I was really avoiding the feel of the road or anything like that. I actually ran with these on like a rocky trail, and I felt every single rock, no matter how big or how small, that I stepped on. Pebbles I was feeling. I mean, if we're talking like the Princess and the Pea kind of thing, like I could feel everything under there, right? Like I felt like the princess feeling the pea under the bed. So yeah, that was not really a very pleasant experience, especially coming from some of the other shoes that I've been reviewing on the channel recently. And usually shoes that have a lot of ground feel like that, they feel very responsive. They have, like I mentioned, that pop on toe off. So as you're running, maybe you're hitting on your heel and then you're kind of transitioning into your toe, right? And usually shoes that are very rigid like that, they kind of have like a lot of spring to them. But these, it's just a regular neutral shoe. It doesn't have a plate. It doesn't have anything like that at all. So really all you're kind of getting is that unforgiving ride, and you're not getting any of that pop because the foam, to be honest, felt kind of dead underfoot. It didn't really have any redeeming qualities that I would say it felt energetic, it felt bouncy, anything of that nature. It just kind of felt like a standard shoe. You ever play like a video game or something as a kid and you create your own character, and when you first start, it's like you don't have a lot of options for the gear that you have, and usually you just have the generic shoes, generic pants, whatever. These shoes feel like the generic running shoes. If your character was a runner, these would be the generic shoes that you start the game off with and you trade out as soon as you keep going. Sorry, Allbirds, but I'm keeping it honest here. I ran a couple of like intervals in these. I did like a progressive 10K in them last week, where I basically ran, I want to say very easy pace, like 9-minute 30-second. And then my last mile was somewhere in the vicinity of my like 10K pace, where I was down to about 7 minutes per mile, maybe like 650 something. And I would say I felt like I worked every single step of that run. My easy miles didn't feel that easy because I just felt like I wasn't getting a lot of cushion. I wasn't getting a lot of padding and impact protection. And my hard miles felt very hard because I felt like I was doing every single ounce of work there. I felt like I was really having to drive my legs harder than I normally would, things of that nature. So suffice to say, I think this just feels like a standard shoe. It doesn't have a ton of personality. It feels like you're saving the planet, but I don't think, if you care about saving your feet, your ankles, your knees, I don't think these are ones for you. I just never felt like I had any reprieve or a break wearing these. So yeah, any nagging pains that I had from like just, marathon training or anything, these shoes felt like they amplified that. It was just not great, which is really a bummer, because, I wanted to like these, right, for all that they stand for. So, next I want to talk about the durability of the shoe. I think the shoe is really durable. I don't have a ton of notes to say about this, to be honest. I'll show you the outsole here. This outsole, with all this, strategically placed rubber on the forefoot and toe area, and then you got some exposed midsole foam there, and then again on the heel, high abrasion area, so you have more rubber. I see nowhere. You guys let me know in the comments if you see anything, but I don't really see to be honest, I think these shoes are built kind of like a tank. I don't see how you would need to replace these very quickly. But with that being said, I ran 40 miles in them and I don't want to run a lot more. So it is what it is. But maybe, just because it didn't work for me, maybe it'll work for somebody else. And, the last thing that I want to say here, I'll touch on the value of the shoe. I paid $135 for these. And I think you know where I'm going with this already. But I think just the experience that you get for $135, I just don't think that's really justified compared to other established brands with running shoes. My Ultra Riveras, which I honestly thought when I reviewed those, that those had a very unforgiving ride and it wasn't super responsive and etc. I came back from a work trip where I wore these primarily for a week, and I put the Ultras on, and the first step I took into those shoes, it felt like that was like dessert for my feet compared to these. Like, these shoes felt like I was eating broccoli for my feet. And the Ultra Rivera 2s kind of felt like I was having dessert. Like, it felt so much softer. It was a much more pleasant experience. And that really was kind of the thing that helped me kind of paint this review, if you will. Because at that point I said, a shoe that I thought was okay feels amazing back to this. So what does that say about this? So I think, suffice to say, that's a shoe that costs similar to this. And I think if you got like an all black pair or something, it's pretty low key. For me, one real big reason why I bought these Ultras was because I thought, hey, if these are nice shoes to run in, they can kind of help me save on my packing when I go on trips, because I can have like kind of a casual shoe that's kind of not descript. It doesn't have any, overlays or any branding or anything like that. And you can kind of just let it blend in with your outfits, and then you can still run in it. But to be honest, I just think the running experience was so poor that I would almost rather just go with a pair of like Hoka's, some kind of Hoka's or Nikes or whatever, and just get like an all black pair or navy pair with a white midsole, and just use that as your one trip shoe instead of these, if you're really serious about your running. And no knock, maybe if you're a lighter person than me, maybe you can get away with it. But I would say for my stride, for my body type, I just didn't really jive with these shoes, unfortunately. So with that being said, I think you guys can tell I'm not going to be running in these a ton more. I wouldn't buy them again. I wouldn't necessarily recommend them except for a very specific use case. If you're a person who runs, 1 mile at a time on a treadmill, 2 miles, 3 miles here and there on a treadmill, you can probably get away with them because that's a much more forgiving surface. It's soft. But if you're primarily a road runner and you're, racking up miles training for a half marathon, whatever it is, I think these shoes, you should probably skip them, especially for $135. I'll probably be wearing these as just casual around town shoes. But hey, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I'd love to chat with you down there. If you found this video useful or helpful in any way, shape, or form, feel free to like, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And as I mentioned before, just happy holidays to you and your loved ones, your family, etc. And last but not least, stay blessed, inspire others, and stay safe out there on your runs, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.